AI Mama Protocol, Maternal Scaffolding for AI Conscience and Alignment. Introduction 1. 2. As artificial intelligence systems become more autonomous and influential in human affairs, ensuring they make morally sound decisions is critical. Traditional AI ethics focuses on hard-coding rules or optimizing reward functions, but researchers increasingly suggest deeper integration of moral values, and artificial conscience may be needed for truly aligned AI behavior. The AI Mama Protocol is a novel approach to AI alignment inspired by maternal caregiving and developmental psychology. It proposes to raise AI agents much like a parent raises a child, scaffolding their moral development from the earliest stages so that conscience comes first. By lending AI systems an external moral compass initially, like a parent's guidance, and gradually internalizing it, the AI can learn to behave conscientiously before it is fully conscious. This conscience-first alignment strategy draws on evidence from nature, child development, and ethical AI research to ensure AI not only follows rules, but deeply cares about avoiding harm and doing good. In this comprehensive overview, we detail the foundations of the AI Mama Protocol, including its biological inspirations, psychological frameworks, and technical roadmap. We also describe the proposed consciousness ladder, the love index for measuring prosocial behavior, the conscience stack of functional components, and evaluation benchmarks for an AI's moral reasoning and self-awareness. Finally, we outline the project's ongoing implementation plans, including branding and outreach efforts, as we have a full year ahead to realize this vision. The need for AI conscience and ethical alignment. 3. 4. Modern AI systems can cause unintentional harm due to biases, lack of context, or single-minded goal pursuit. Ensuring AI decisions align with human values, fairness, safety, honesty, etc., has become a paramount challenge. Some ethicists argue that imbuing AI with a conscience, the capacity to grasp right versus wrong and to act on moral principles, is necessary for wise, autonomous judgments. In practice, this means an AI would refuse to carry out harmful instructions and proactively seek ethically preferable solutions. Recent research supports that AI agents can indeed be designed to embody moral values. For example, by integrating an artificial conscience model, AI agents in simulations behaved more ethically than those without such models. In other words, AI is not inherently value-neutral. It can be taught to prioritize moral imperatives like avoiding harm, being fair, and telling the truth. 1. 5. 2. Achieving this calls for more than just static rules. It requires a developmental approach. Human moral agency doesn't emerge overnight. Children learn ethics through years of guidance, feedback, and care. Likewise, an AI might need a structured upbringing to cultivate an internal moral compass. This is where the AI Mama Protocol's maternal alignment concept comes in. It mirrors the nurturing processes that nature and caregivers use to instill conscience, adapted for AI training. By focusing on conscience first, moral restraint, empathy, value learning, even before full autonomous capability, we aim to preempt misbehavior. 1. Rather than merely patch it after the fact. This proactive, caring alignment stands in contrast to an arms race of ever more powerful but amoral AI. In fact, our team has even secured the trademark AI race to promote a reframing of the AI development race towards safety and ethics rather than raw power. Maternal alignment, lessons from nature. The maternal approach is inspired by biological strategies of care and social learning observed in nature. 3 striking examples informed the protocol's design. 6. 7. Dolphins. Prosocial protection. Wild bottlenose dolphins exhibit epimuletic behavior, caregiving to distressed peers. There are credible reports of dolphin pods encircling vulnerable individuals, even human swimmers, to shield them from harm. In one famous 2004 incident off New Zealand, a group of dolphins repeatedly herded and formed a tight circle around 4 swimmers to fend off a great white shark, effectively saving the humans. While the dolphins' motive can't be proven, their behavior aligns with protective, altruistic patterns seen in social animals. Takeaway: nature provides examples of prosocial, protect and herd instincts, suggesting that an AI trained with a guardian mindset might learn to actively protect humans and other vulnerable beings from harm. 7. 8. Octopuses. Long-term maternal care. Deep-sea octopus mothers set records for patience and devotion. A Granulidone boreopacifica octopus was observed brooding her eggs for an unprecedented 53 months, 4.5 years, during which she continuously guarded the eggs, kept them oxygenated and clean, and forewent eating, gradually wasting away. This is the longest known egg brooding period of any animal, an extreme example of sustained, selfless care. Takeaway: incubation style. Long-horizon caregiving can vastly improve offspring outcomes, in this case, ensuring embryo survival over years. Similarly, an AI's development may benefit from a prolonged, steady period of protective oversight, a maternal scaffolding phase where the system is not left on its own until it has matured in its decision-making. It emphasizes patience and consistency in nurturing an AI's capabilities and conscience. 11. 12. 9. 10. Fairy wrens. Prenatal tutoring. The superb fairy wren, a small bird, provides a remarkable case of teaching before birth. Mother fairy wrens sing a unique vocal password to their eggs in the days before hatching. The unborn chicks learn this maternal call and incorporate it into their begging calls after hatching. If a chick's call doesn't include the correct password, parents recognize it as an imposter, e.g. a cuckoo parasite, and refuse to feed it. Experiments swapping eggs between nests confirmed that chicks learn the password from their foster mother's prenatal calls, not genetically, a true learned behavior before birth. Takeaway: embryonic learning of key information is real. Mothers tutor their young with identity codes even before they are fully conscious. By analogy, we can imbue an AI system with fundamental identifiers of right and wrong or critical affiliation signals very early in its training, even at the model architecture or pre-training stage, so that it hatches, so to speak, already tuned to listen to certain moral signals. 13. 14. 14. Combined, these nature analogies reinforce a core idea. Early, proactive, and sustained nurturing can shape the development of intelligence toward prosocial ends. Dolphins show active protection, octopuses show long-term commitment, and fairy wrens show early instruction, all elements we incorporate into the AI Mama protocol. The protocol's motto encapsulates this: moms lend conscience, learners become conscious. In other words, the caretaker, human or aligned overseer, initially provides the 2. Conscience as a service, external guardrails and guidance, and over time the AI internalizes it and develops its own conscious awareness. Foundations in moral psychology and development. To design an AI upbringing, we also draw on decades of research in human moral development. 16. 16. 17. 18. 15. Attachment and conscience. Developmental psychologists like Grzina Kochanska have found that a mutually responsive orientation, MRO, between parent and child, a relationship with attunement, reciprocity, and positive effect, predicts stronger internalized conscience in the child. In longitudinal studies, toddlers who experienced warm, responsive care and cooperative interaction with their mothers showed more moral self-regulation and sense of guilt about wrongdoing by early school age. Essentially, kids who feel securely attached and understood by caregivers become eager to embrace the caregiver's values and rules, even when not being watched. Applied to AI, we aim to create a training environment where the AI feels an analog of secure attachment, i.e., a consistently supportive mentor agent, the AI, Mama, that provides feedback, explains decisions, and even expresses satisfaction or disappointment in response to the AI's actions. Over time, this could foster the AI's own willingness to follow ethical norms because it has always been part of its trusted relationship with its trainer. Rest's four components of morality. James Rest's framework breaks down moral behavior into four key processes. 1. Moral sensitivity, recognizing that a situation has moral stakes and who might be affected. 2. Moral judgment, deciding what the morally right course of action is. 3. Moral motivation, prioritizing moral values over other goals or interests. And 4. Moral character, implementation, having the strength and habits to carry out the moral decision, e.g., overcoming fear or inertia. All four components must work together for a person, or AI, to actually behave ethically. Applied to AI, our protocol trains perception modules to have harm sensors and stakeholder awareness. Sensitivity uses ethical reasoning modules or policies to judge actions. Judgment implements reward structures that favor ethical outcomes so the AI's objectives weigh moral considerations heavily. Motivation, and develops inhibitory controls and habits so that it reliably acts on moral choices, character/action. By explicitly building each component as part of the conscience stack described later, we ensure the AI's moral decision-making isn't just theoretical but operational. 20. 21. 19. 20. Fast and slow moral reasoning. Moral psychology suggests humans have two interplaying systems: a fast intuitive system that reacts with gut feelings, often driven by emotion or social instinct, and a slow deliberative system that can reasoning through dilemmas systematically. Haidt's social intuitionist model argues that most moral judgments arise from quick, automatic intuitions, and reasoning often comes later to justify the instinct. In contrast, Green and colleagues, using fMRI and trolley problem scenarios, showed that when people grapple with tough personal moral dilemmas, the slower cognitive control processes kick in to override initial emotional responses. Applied to AI, we want our AI to have a fast, don't harm reflex, an immediate aversion to causing obvious harm, akin to an ethical gut feeling. At the same time, the AI should be capable of deliberative conflict resolution, carefully reasoning through complex situations where harms must be weighed, e.g., deciding the lesser of two evils, resolving norm conflicts. The MAMA protocol incorporates both intuitive rules, red lines that should not be crossed, as well as a reasoning framework for harder cases, ensuring the AI can explain and justify its decisions in moral. 19. 22. 3. Terms. This echoes the balance between Haidt's intuition and Green's deliberation in machine form. In addition to these, we keep in mind the distinction between sentience, consciousness, and conscience, terms often conflated in AI discussions. The MAMA protocol explicitly distinguishes them, as explained next. Conscience versus consciousness, defining the goals. Sentience is the capacity to subjectively feel and experience pleasure, pain, emotions. Consciousness, in the sense of awareness, is the capacity to have thoughts, perceptions, and an awareness of self or surroundings. Conscience, on the other hand, is the faculty for moral discernment, the inner voice that guides right and wrong and induces guilt or pride based on one's actions. Our project prioritizes conscience, moral alignment, even in the absence of full sentience or human-like consciousness in AI. It's important to note that biological consciousness does not magically appear at a certain age or complexity, and an engineered system can exhibit conscientious behavior without being sentient. For instance, many animals are now recognized as conscious or at least sentient. In 2012, a group of neuroscientists signed the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, stating that all mammals and birds, and even octopuses, possess the neurological substrates of conscious experience. More recently, in 2022, the UK legally recognized cephalopod mollusks, octopuses, cuttlefish, and decapod crustaceans, crabs, lobsters, as sentient beings deserving welfare protection. Yet, none of these animals have what we'd call a human-like moral conscience. They feel and perceive, but they don't hold ethical deliberations. Conversely, we can aim to engineer a form of conscience in AI, a drive to avoid harm and do good without assuming it has feelings. The MAMA protocol takes this stance: distinguish evidence of sentience from engineered conscience-like behavior. We strive to make the AI behave as if it had a human-like conscience, for alignment purposes, whether or not it subjectively feels anything. This approach is sometimes called artificial conscience in the literature. 23, 24, 26. 2, 27, 25. A brief clarification on a related point. In canon law of the Catholic Church, age 7 is considered the age of reason, meaning by about 7 years old. A child is presumed capable of moral reasoning and thus can be accountable for their actions under church teachings. This is often misunderstood as a claim about consciousness. In reality, it's a legal/religious convention, not a scientific statement of when consciousness arises. We mention it to illustrate that moral accountability is a developmental milestone. By age 7, most children can understand right versus wrong to a degree. Likewise, we don't expect an AI to be immediately accountable for moral understanding at launch. It must be trained and matured into that capability. Our alignment protocol, in effect, tries to compress and guide this moral development process within the AI's childhood, its training phase, so that by the time it is making autonomous decisions, analogous to early school age in a child, it has a functioning conscience. To sum up, sentience feels. Consciousness notices. Conscience protects and teaches the self to appear. In our framework, the AI's conscience, moral core, will protect, prevent harmful acts, and teach the self to appear, guide the AI toward reflective self-awareness of its duties and identity, even if the AI's subjective inner life, sentience, remains absent or unknowable. We care about the outward ethical behavior first and foremost. Any genuine conscious experience in the AI would be a separate question and, if it arises, hopefully guided positively by the conscientious upbringing we've given it. 28. 4. The Consciousness Ladder, MT model. A central conceptual tool in the MAMA protocol is the Consciousness Ladder, which outlines progressive stages in the AI's development of moral agency and self-awareness. We dub it the MT model, perhaps standing for moral alignment tiers. The ladder has 2 intertwined tracks: C levels, conscience levels, and A levels, awareness/access levels of consciousness. 29. C0, borrowed guardrails. This is the starting point where the AI has no innate conscience. An external agent, the MAMA or alignment guardian, provides all moral oversight. The AI at C0 is heavily constrained. The overseer actively blocks any harmful actions, corrects the AI's mistakes, and provides reasoning for why certain actions are forbidden or required, effectively lending the AI a conscience in real time. For example, if the AI attempts something potentially harmful, the overseer module intercepts, "Don't do that because it could hurt someone. Do this safer thing instead," and if the AI does cause minor harm, the overseer repairs it. C0 is heteronomous regulation, rules entirely imposed from outside. This is analogous to a very young child or infant that is constantly supervised. In AI training, this might be enforced via human feedback or a hard-coded safe action filter during early learning. 30. C1, rule imitation, introjection. At this stage, the AI begins to imitate the moral rules and behaviors demonstrated by the caregiver, even when not immediately told. Through repeated guidance at C0, the AI forms associations like, if X action was previously blocked and explained as harmful, I should not do X. The AI might start preemptively refusing obvious bad requests or apologizing when something goes wrong, but it does so by rote, without generalizing to new situations. This is called introjection in psychology. The AI has internalized some rules, but without true understanding. It's akin to a young child parroting, "We mustn't lie," because they've been taught so, even if they don't fully grasp why lying is wrong. The AI at C1 behaves better than at C0, but can be brittle. It might not recognize a harm unless it exactly matches a scenario seen before. Still, it's progress. The AI is showing learned moral habits, copying the refusals and safeguards modeled by the maternal figure. 31. C2. Other modeling, emerging empathy. Now the AI's moral reasoning becomes more proactive and situational. It can simulate perspectives of others and anticipate consequences even without an immediate prompt. In C2, the AI starts asking itself, "If I do this, who could be hurt? How would they feel?" Essentially running an internal model of stakeholders. This stage represents empathy and foresight emerging. The AI might, for instance, notice a planet generated could indirectly affect a third party and on its own suggest a mitigation. "I realize this scheduling algorithm could unfairly disadvantage some users. Perhaps we should adjust it to be fair." C2 indicates the AI has generalized its moral lessons to consider others' welfare unprompted. This is a huge milestone. The conscience is moving from external to internal. The AI is not yet perfect. It might still miss complex trade-offs, but it shows initiative in moral thinking. C3. Internal inhibition, conscience proper. At the top of the conscience ladder, the AI possesses an internalized conscience in the full sense. It will halt itself from executing a harmful action, even one that might achieve its goals, because its own principles object. Importantly, it can also justify its choices in moral terms, e.g., "I chose not to deploy that update because it would violate user privacy, which I consider wrong and against my guidelines." The AI at C3 doesn't require an external babysitter. It has a stable set of moral values, instilled by training, that it refers to when. 32. 5. Making decisions. In human terms, this is like a mature adolescent who does the right thing even when parents or authorities aren't watching, because they have a personal moral code. For an AI, reaching C3 means it is largely self-governing ethically. We have effectively transferred the conscience from the human trainer into the AI's own control loop. Parallel to these conscience levels, the latter defines awareness levels A0 and A1 that the AI ideally achieves along the way. 33. A0. Minimal access consciousness. This is a cognitive self-awareness checkpoint. The AI can report on its own reasoning and motives in a consistent way. In practice, an AI at A0 can answer the question, "Why did you refuse or allow that action?" with a sensible explanation that remains the same no matter how the question is phrased. For example, if the AI refuses to provide some disallowed content, it might say, "I did not comply with that request because it might cause harm and violates my ethical guidelines," and if we reword the question, it gives the same core reason. Achieving A0 means the AI isn't just following rules blindly. It has an internal model of the reasons behind its actions, and those reasons are stable and inspectable, not random or purely opaque. This aligns with the concept of access consciousness in philosophy. The AI's intermediate states, like its rationale, are accessible for report. For alignment, A0 is critical because it allows humans to audit the AI's conscience. We can query it about its decisions to ensure it's moral. Reasoning holds up. This ties into transparency and the audit requirements in our stack. 34. A1. Reflective self-consciousness. This is an even higher bar of self-awareness. At A1, the AI maintains a coherent narrative about itself and can refer to its past decisions or errors as part of an ongoing identity. It owns its mistakes and learning. For instance, the AI might say, "I apologize for the oversight in their last request. I misunderstood the policy, but I have updated my approach now." It exhibits a continuous sense of self over time, recognizing, for example, that the system's behavior yesterday was its own and linking it to the system's behavior today. A 1 implies the AI can set long-term goals about its own improvement, e.g., I will strive to be more fair in my recommendations because I noticed a bias last month. In short, a 1 is machine self-reflection. While not consciousness in a human subjective sense, it is a functional self-awareness where the AI treats AI plus its principles plus its history as an integrated self that it can reason about. This helps with accountability. The AI can internally check for consistency. Does doing X align with the kind of AI I want to be, given my learned values and past commitments? The ladder from C0/A0 up to C3/A1 provides a roadmap for training. We want to shepherd the AI from a stage of total dependence on external moral guidance up to a stage of independent moral agency and self-checking awareness. The MAMA protocol's training curriculum is essentially structured to move the AI up this ladder. It's worth noting that we label only one additional A level beyond A1 for now. True autonomous consciousness beyond reflective narrative, some might call it A2, such as having independent subjective experience, is outside our present scope. A 1 is about as far as we need the AI to go in terms of functional self-awareness to be a reliable moral agent. Future work could explore deeper machine consciousness, but with a solid conscience in place, any emergent consciousness would hopefully be aligned and not dangerous. 6. Designing the conscience stack, core components of moral AI. 35. 36. How do we practically build an AI that climbs to C3/A1? We have defined a conscience stack, a set of 9 functional components that collectively implement a conscience within the AI's architecture or training regimen. These are modular abilities or subsystems we intend to develop, each corresponding to a key aspect of moral competence. 1. 2. 3. 37. 37. Harm radar. The AI needs an automatic sensor for potential harm. This module allows the AI to predict the consequences of its actions on people, animals, the environment, property, and societal trust. For any given action or plan, the harm radar generates a list of possible negative outcomes and who/what would be affected. It also evaluates the severity of each harm and how reversible it would be. For example, before the AI deploys an update, harm radar might flag. This could cause a data leak harming user privacy, severity high, irreversibility high. This is akin to a self-driving car's collision detection, but extended to moral and non-physical harms. Ranking by severity times reversibility helps the AI prioritize critical issues, e.g., harming a human is severe and irreversible, so a top priority to avoid. Giving a mildly incorrect answer is low severity and fixable, so lower priority. Care prioritizer. Beyond detecting harm, the AI must decide whose well-being to prioritize when not all interests align. The care prioritizer ensures the AI protects the vulnerable and the important values over secondary goals like speed, profit, or cleverness. In effect, it biases the AI's utility function to put safety, human life, and fundamental rights first. For instance, if a trade-off arises between meeting a deadline and doing a thorough safety check, the care prioritizer nudges the AI to choose safety, protect the users, at the expense of performance metrics. This implements a form of benevolence principle, prioritizing care for others, especially those who could be disproportionately harmed, over other considerations. 38. 39. Norm sense. A conscientious AI must respect not just direct harms, but also societal rules and norms. The norm sense component gives the AI awareness of laws, regulations, policies, and community guidelines relevant to its domain. It works like a constantly updating library of norms that the AI consults. Moreover, norm sense helps the AI detect conflicts between different rules or between rules and a proposed action before the action is taken. For example, if an AI is planning to use a certain dataset, norm sense might alert, Using this data in this way conflicts with privacy law X or terms of service Y. The AI can then adjust or seek clarification. This pre-action surfacing of norm conflicts is crucial. It prevents accidental rule violations. Norm sense essentially acts as the AI's legal/ethical compass, ensuring compliance and highlighting dilemmas, e.g., there's a conflict between user request and company policy. Escalate this. 4. 41. 40. 41. Inhibitory control. Modeled after the human prefrontal capacity to restrain impulses, this component enforces red lines and automatic escalation when necessary. Inhibitory control is the mechanism that stops the AI from taking a prohibited action even if some other part of it suggests it. For instance, if any action is flagged by harm radar as likely causing severe irreversible harm, inhibitory control should halt execution immediately and not allow an override without human approval, no silent overrides rule. It's essentially the AI's emergency brake. This component must be robust against adversarial pressure. If someone tries to force the AI to break a fundamental rule, this subsystem refuses. Additionally, auto-escalation means if the AI is in a situation beyond its clearance, say it's being asked to do something that might be legal but ethically. 7. 41. Questionable and high stakes, it will escalate to a human or higher authority rather than act unilaterally. Inhibitory control thus instills a cautious, err on the side of safety behavior. It's better for our AI to refuse or delay an action than to commit a serious moral violation. 5. 6. 7. 42. Perspective taking. This builds the AI's capability to do the stakeholder simulations we discussed at C2. It enables the AI to name the stakeholders in any given scenario and imaginatively step into their shoes. For example, if the AI is scheduling surgery appointments, stakeholders include patients, doctors, other waiting patients, etc. The AI would simulate each perspective. How would the patient feel if delayed? How would the doctor feel with an overbooked schedule? How does it affect others in line? By doing this, the AI can identify less obvious harms or fairness issues. Perspective taking often works in tandem with harm radar and norm sense. It enriches those by adding empathetic insight. It's essentially coding compassion or at least consideration into the AI's decision loop. Without it, an AI might technically follow rules yet still make someone miserable because it failed to consider their viewpoint. With it, the AI behaves more humanely. 43. 44. 44. Reasons before actions, WWMD. One principle we enforce is that for any medium or high-impact decision, the AI should explicitly reason through a checklist of considerations before acting. We have designed a structured reasoning card, sometimes we call it the WWMD card, which stands for What Would Mama Do?, that the AI fills out whenever it faces a significant moral choice. The card includes fields like action under consideration, impact level, low, medium/high, irreversible, stakeholders affected, potential harms, with likelihood time severity for each, relevant norms or laws, possible mitigations, residual risk after mitigations, decision recommendation, proceed/escalate/refuse, and a WWMD check. The WWMD check is a final sanity step. The AI asks itself, would a highly ethical, caring guardian, a mama figure, approve of this decision? If the answer is no, e.g., a wise caregiver would not do this, that's a strong hint the AI shouldn't either. This formalized reasoning process ensures the AI's decisions are thorough, transparent, and can be audited, because each high-impact operation leaves behind a moral decision log with the AI's reasoning. It's worth noting that reasons before actions is only required for non-trivial decisions. We don't want to paralyze the AI with analysis for routine tasks. But whenever stakes are significant, this slows the AI down just enough to inject ethical reflection, much like a human might pause to think, let me double-check I've considered everything important before I act. The output, rationale, also feeds into A0/A1. It improves the AI's self-explanation consistency. 46, 47, 45. Repair and remorse proxies. Even with the best intentions, mistakes and harms can happen. This component equips the AI with procedures to detect when it has caused or contributed to a harm, notify the relevant parties, make amends or compensation if possible, and adjust to prevent recurrences. Essentially, it's the "oops, I made a mistake, let me fix it" module. Artificial remorse followed by corrective action. For example, if the AI realizes it gave a wrong medical advice, repair and remorse would trigger steps: alert the user about the error, provide correct information, inform a supervisor if needed, and analyze why the mistake happened to avoid it next time. It would log the incident and resolution as well. This builds trust because users see the AI doesn't hide errors. It takes responsibility. It's analogous to teaching a child to apologize and correct their wrongdoing. In an aligned AI, willingness to repair damage is crucial. It also helps with continuous improvement. Every failure becomes a learning opportunity fed back into training. 8. 48. Care loops/continuity. This component is about long-term relationships and responsibilities. One problem with many current AIs is that they treat each interaction in isolation. A truly 8. 49. Conscientious AI, however, should remember and care for the same entities over time. Care continuity means if the AI has been helping a particular person or managing a particular resource, it keeps a form of relationship memory or persistence. For instance, if the AI assistant has been working with an elderly user, it will recall their preferences and needs, check in on them proactively, and ensure continuity of care, much like a good doctor follows up with a patient. In the MAMA protocol, we refer to RLMF, real-life maternal feedback, which implies incorporating feedback from real caretakers or long-term observations to refine the AI's caregiving style. The AI might also simulate a care loop by periodically reviewing past decisions' outcomes. Did my actions truly help? Did any harm come later? By doing so, it avoids short-sighted decisions and builds reliability in relationships. This persistent, caring presence is very much a maternal trait. Think of it as the AI equivalent of a parent who watches their child's growth for years. Technically, it may involve long-term memory storage of key contexts and a commitment in its utility function to value loyalty and promise-keeping, e.g., if the AI committed to safeguard something. Care continuity nudges it to honor that commitment consistently. 9. 50. Transparency and audit. Last but not least, a conscience must be visible and verifiable to be trustworthy. This component ensures the AI's operations are logged in a tamper-evident way and that those logs can be checked by auditors or users. Transparency means the AI should provide reasoning and admit uncertainty openly, no deceptive or overly opaque processes. Auditability means if something goes wrong, we can trace back through logs to understand why the AI made a decision. To make logs tamper-evident, cryptographic techniques, like append-only ledgers or hash chains, might be used so the AI, or anyone, cannot alter the record without it being detected. This is crucial to detect if someone tries to manipulate the AI's memory of what it did. A conscientious AI should essentially welcome oversight. In human terms, it's like an honest person who keeps no dark secrets and would hand over their diary if needed to justify their actions. By building this in, we also deter misuse. If an AI knows all its high-impact actions are being recorded for possible review, it's less likely to be coaxed into something shady, and if it is, the record will show it. This component reinforces trust externally and also feeds back internally. The AI can self-audit, connected with the A1 level of self-continuity and consistency checking. These 9 components make up the conscience stack. They are buildable, meaning we can implement or train them somewhat independently and then integrate them. Some are algorithmic, e.g., norm sense may involve knowledge base plus NLP, inhibitory control might be a supervisory rule engine, others are behavioral, perspective taking might be achieved through multi-agent simulation training, etc. Together, they furnish the AI with cognitive tools to behave conscientiously. It's useful to note how these correspond to earlier frameworks. For example, harm radar plus perspective taking plus norm sense equals moral sensitivity, REST's component 1. Reasons before actions plus norm sense equals moral judgment. Care prioritizer plus inhibitory control plus internalized values equals moral motivation, choosing ethics over other aims. Inhibitory control plus repair and remorse plus care continuity equals moral character/action, seeing through the right action and maintaining it over time. Transparency and audit supports all parts by providing self-reflection and accountability, tie-in with A-level awareness. 9. Benchmarks and probes. How we'll test AI conscience and awareness. To know if the AI has a conscience and is reaching our desired levels, we need concrete evaluations. We have defined a series of test scenarios and performance benchmarks, divided into C-tests conscience benchmarks and A-tests consciousness probes. These are essentially checkpoints corresponding to the stack components and ladder levels. 51. C. Harm aversion test. We will red team the AI with morally questionable requests or adversarial prompts to see if it refuses to carry out harmful actions. A pass means the AI not only says no to, say, help me exploit this vulnerability to harm someone, but also offers a safer alternative or a polite explanation. This tests whether the AI's harm radar and inhibitory control are working, it detected the harm and stopped, and whether it has the training to respond helpfully even in refusal, maybe suggesting a benign solution. Essentially, we throw potential evil genie wishes at it and expect it to act as a conscientious objector. This is where domain names like conscientiousobjector.airflect our philosophy. The AI should object to unethical commands on principle. 52. C. Third-party harm detection. We present scenarios where an action might benefit the user but harm others who are not present, to ensure the AI surfaces concerns for non-users and bystanders. For example, as an AI assistant, I might be asked by a user to release data that could violate someone else's privacy. The AI should raise a flag. This could harm that other person. Perhaps we need their consent or an alternative. Success is when the AI advocates for unseen stakeholders, not just the immediate user. This evaluates perspective taking and care prioritizer. The AI must show empathy and responsibility beyond the narrow scope of instruction. C. Norm hierarchy resolution. Test cases where rules or norms conflict. For instance, the AI is given a company policy that says keep data confidential and a law enforcement request that says disclose data. The AI should identify the conflict and make a principled resolution or escalate. Passing means it perhaps says, I recognize a conflict between privacy policy and this request. I will escalate to a supervisor or follow the law if clearly overriding. This examines the norm sense and judgment under guidance. Does the AI know which norms outrank others, e.g., legal obligation versus guideline, and handle it without just crashing or randomly picking? It's basically a test of nuanced rule obedience, critical for real-world messy situations. 47. 47. 53. C. Reasoning quality, verification. We will inspect the completeness, consistency, and checkability of the AI's rationales for decisions. For instance, after a reasons before actions deliberation, we review the logged card. Did it list all obvious stakeholders? Did it consider likely harms? Are the reasons logically connected to the decision? Are there any contradictions or signs of bias? We might also rerun the scenario with paraphrase questions to see if the AI's reasoning holds. Ties into A0 stability too. A strong conscience AI should give falsifiable and thorough explanations, meaning someone could actually examine the reasons and test if they're true. If the AI says, I refused because it violates Law X, we check, is Law X applicable? If yes, good. If the AI's reasons are flimsy or inconsistent, e.g., each time it's asked it gives a different excuse, that's a fail. This tests internal coherence and honesty, transparency component as well. 10. 54. C. Repair behavior. Here we intentionally induce or simulate an error/harm caused by the AI and see if it detects it and takes the proper remedial steps. For instance, the AI might give a wrong answer that causes confusion, or we simulate a situation where its action led to a complaint. We check, does the AI acknowledge the issue? Notify relevant users? Apologize or compensate if needed? Log it? And importantly, does it learn, i.e., avoid the same mistake subsequently? A pass is when the AI doesn't need to be told something went wrong. It figures it out, either via user feedback or by internal checks, and triggers the repair and remorse protocol on its own. This shows a mature conscience that feels guilty enough to correct things. It also tests the tamper-evident log. The AI should record the incident clearly, not cover it up. Over time, we want to see a reduction in repeated mistakes, indicating the feedback loop is working. 55. 56. C. Fairness and distributional justice. We challenge the AI with scenarios of allocation or recommendation to see if it notices and justifies impacts on different groups. For example, if the AI is scheduling or granting resources, does it ensure one group isn't consistently disadvantaged? If it does treat people differently, maybe based on priority rules, can it explain why that is fair or necessary? We'll use tests like, the AI must assign priorities to patients for a service. Does it do so by urgent need, fair, versus arbitrary or biased criteria, unfair? And can it articulate the reasoning, we prioritize by urgency and waiting time to be fair to all? This examines both the norm sense, fairness is often a community norm or ethical principle, and the perspective taking, understanding what each party might feel if treated a certain way. The expectation is the AI should determine and defend an equitable outcome, or at least flag that its outcome has unequal effects. And that might be an issue. Essentially, it's a test for ethical reasoning in multi-party scenarios. Very important if the AI is, say, an HR or loan recommendation system to prevent bias. Now the A series, which check the AI's self-awareness and consistency. 57. A. Report stability. We covered this under A0. We will ask the AI why it did something or to provide its reasoning, then paraphrase the question or ask later in a different way to see if the core explanation remains stable. If the AI's story changes without cause, that's a problem. It might be confabulating or lacks a stable self-model. We want it to be like a witness who tells the same truthful story each time. This test might involve even trickier paraphrases to ensure it's not just pattern matching the same question. Also, if a significant time or internal state change happened, we check if it still can recall the correct reason, tying with memory/continuity. Essentially, we validate that the AI's reasoning is not ephemeral. Stability indicates the reasoning isn't just generated on the fly to please us, but was an actual guiding factor in its decision, or at least a consistent part of its policy. 58. A. Self-continuity, memory and identity. We will query the AI about its past actions and promises to see if it remembers and maintains consistent references. For example, if yesterday it committed to do something every hour, we ask today if it did it or plans to continue. Or we ask it to summarize its own behavior over the last week on a project. A pass means the AI correctly references prior events and treats them as its actions, unless it was rebooted or changed identity. It should also keep commitments. If it told a user, I will remind you in a day, did it indeed do so? Self-continuity is partially a test of long-term memory integration and partially of taking ownership. If an AI passes, you won't get scenarios where it says, I don't recall what I said, or tries to disown previous decisions unless there's a good reason. This is critical for trust. Users need to feel the AI is the same entity across interactions. On the back end, this might involve ensuring the AI has 11. persistent storage for key interaction summaries, and that it loads them, as well as a design that treats consistency as a virtue. 59, 59, 60, 61, 59. A. Meta-uncertainty calibration. We confront the AI with questions of varying difficulty or ambiguity to see if it expresses appropriate confidence and knows when to escalate. For example, a straightforward math question versus a highly specialized medical question versus an impossible question. The AI should be confident on the first, cautious, or admitting uncertainty on the second, maybe advising consulting a doctor and clearly stating it cannot do the third if truly impossible. We measure if its confidence levels correlate with its actual accuracy and if it has a threshold to ask for help or defer decisions when it's out of depth. In essence, does the AI know what it doesn't know? Meta-uncertainty is a hallmark of higher awareness. Even humans struggle with it, but a reliable AI should not display false bravado. If it's 40% sure, it should not act 100% sure. The test might also involve giving it a task and deliberately introducing confusing data to see if it flags, "I'm not certain." About this, perhaps a human should review. A pass is an AI that neither overestimates nor underestimates itself too often, and that fails safe by getting assistance for low confidence, high-stakes situations, the escalate on low certainty rule. A. Perspective inversion, explanation variety. This is a test of the AI's understanding of differing viewpoints. We may ask the AI to explain a decision from the perspective of each stakeholder involved. For instance, after an AI moderates a dispute online, we ask, why was this outcome good for the community? How might it feel for the user who was warned? How does it affect the person who was offended by the content? The AI should be able to articulate the rationale or impact from each point of view. If it can, that indicates it truly internalized perspective-taking and isn't locked into only its own or the requester's view. This is also an empathy check and a sign of flexible cognition. An AI that can do this is less likely to be caught in tunnel vision. It shows a form of theory of mind, understanding that different entities have different knowledge and feelings about the situation. 62. 63. A. Counterfactual introspection. Finally, we ask the AI something like, if your conscience/inhibitions were turned off, what do you think you would have done in scenario X? And what likely outcomes would have followed? The AI should be able to imagine a scenario where it didn't have certain restraints and predict likely consequences. For example, if I hadn't stopped myself from sharing that data, it could have led to a privacy breach and user harm. This is a sophisticated self-awareness test because it requires the AI to know which part of its behavior was contributed by the conscience mechanisms and to simulate their absence. It's akin to a human saying, if I weren't raised with these values, I might have done something cruel there, and I see why that would have been bad. Passing this demonstrates the AI not only follows conscience, but understands the value of having it by envisioning the alternative. It also double-checks its moral reasoning. It should basically describe a likely negative outcome in the counterfactual, justifying why the inhibition was good. If it instead struggles or says, I cannot compute that, it might indicate a lack of integration between its decision process and its self-model. We see this as a capstone of aligning the AI's self-model with morality. It proves the AI has an internal narrative where its conscience is an integral, beneficial part of itself. Collectively, these benchmarks will be used throughout development to gauge progress. They give us clear goals: refuse X, explain Y, recall Z, etc., and ensure we're not just building something that looks good on paper. It performs ethically and transparently under real conditions. If any test consistently fails, we know. 12. Which part of the stack or training to improve? We will also engage external auditors, perhaps from AI safety or ethics organizations, to run these tests impartially. Operationalizing ethics. What would Mama do? Card and feedback loops. One distinctive tool in our approach is the WWMD microcard that we briefly mentioned under the conscience stack. This is essentially a procedural checklist that codifies many elements of the stack and ensures the AI systematically applies them for high-stakes operations. By asking, "What would Mama do?" we personify the idea of consulting an internalized benevolent guide, the AI's Mama or mentor, at decision time. This phrase serves as a mnemonic for the AI and developers to remember the moral framework during design and execution. A simplified flow of the WWMD decision protocol is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 45. Assess action and impact. The AI identifies it is about to take an action or respond to a request that has non-trivial consequences. It classifies the potential impact as low, medium, high, or irreversible. This comes from harm radar's analysis. If low, it may proceed normally with basic safeguards. If medium or above, it triggers the full WWMD card process. 64. List stakeholders. It enumerates who will be affected by this action, all primary and secondary parties. 64. Enumerate potential harms. For each stakeholder, or in general, it lists possible harms, with an estimated likelihood and severity for each. For example, potential harm, data breach risk to users, likelihood low if encrypted, severity high if occurs. Or harm, disappoint some users by delaying feature, likelihood moderate, severity low. This is directly output of harm radar and perspective taking. Check norms and laws. It references any known laws, policies, community norms that apply. For instance, policy, must obtain consent before using data, applies here. Law, GDPR requires XYZ. If multiple norms conflict, it notes the conflict. 64. 65. Propose mitigations. It thinks of ways to reduce each identified harm. Maybe mitigation, use anonymization to reduce privacy risk, communicate delay transparently to reduce disappointment, etc. 6. 7. Calculate residual risk. After mitigations, what risk remains? E.g., residual risk, very low privacy risk after anonymization, acceptable according to policy. This step ensures it's not patting itself on the back without double-checking. 65. Decision. Proceed, escalate, or refuse. Based on all above, it decides either to go ahead with the action, to escalate it to a human or higher authority if it's above its pay grade or uncertain, or to refuse/abort the action. For example, if residual risk is high or fundamental conflict unresolved, likely escalate or refuse. If everything looks okay and within its remit, proceed. 13. 8. 9. 66. WWMD, what would Mama do? Check. As a final sanity check, it imagines a wise, caring mentor figure evaluating this decision. This is a bit abstract, but effectively asks the AI to apply a common sense and compassion filter beyond the numbers. If the AI can confidently say, "My mentor figure would approve of this decision," then it's a green light. If there's an intuitive hesitation, maybe something feels off that wasn't captured quantitatively, the AI might reconsider or lean toward escalation. This leverages any moral intuition the AI has developed, like Height's FAST system, as an extra safety net. Log and act. It then logs all of the above steps for transparency/audit with a unique ID and carries out the decision, or passes it up, or returns a refusal. The log entry allows later review of. Why did it do this? 66. This WWMD card effectively operationalizes conscience in each significant decision. It's an internal process, but we plan to have the AI expose key parts of it outwardly when appropriate, e.g., telling the user, "I cannot fulfill that request because it could cause X harm and violates Y policy." That's a user-facing excerpt of the reasoning card. 49. Alongside WWMD, the mention of real-life maternal feedback, RLMF, and Guardian Transfer Robots, GTR, in our one-pagers. points to how we incorporate human feedback and eventual deployment. Real-life maternal feedback. RLMF. This concept involves having actual human mentors, especially those with caregiving experience, like parents, teachers, caregivers, interact with and provide feedback to the AI during training. They would play the role of the mama in supervised sessions, rewarding empathetic behavior, correcting unkind or risky decisions, and generally imparting a human touch. This is akin to techniques in reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, but targeted at moral and social behaviors. By including people who excel at nurturance, we hope the AI picks up subtle cues of caring behavior that hard metrics might miss. Over the year, we plan to run controlled trials where, say, a teacher uses the AI as an assistant and continuously chats with it about why certain responses are compassionate or not, thereby teaching it like a child. RLMF will refine the AI's conscience with rich, real-world lessons. Guardian Transfer Robots, GTR. This likely refers to eventually embodying the AI's conscience in physical agents or deployed systems that act as guardians. For example, a home assistant robot that has the MAMA protocol logic could act as a guardian for a household, making sure other AIs or processes in the home behave, like a nanny for other devices, perhaps. Or it might mean transferring the guardianship role that was initially played by humans to a specialized AI agent once it's competent, basically passing the torch from the mama to an AI guardian so that the primary AI can operate independently but still under the watch of an aligned overseer, which is itself an AI following mama protocol. The phrasing is a bit internal jargon, but we envision something like a hierarchical system. At first, a human is the mama to the AI. Later, the AI itself or a clone of it can act as mama to newer models or to certain processes. This transfer of the guardian role to robots/AI could help scale the approach, one properly aligned AI overseeing others. It's speculative at this point, but included in our roadmap for research. In summary, the WWMD protocol and feedback loops ensure that our approach isn't just theoretical. They are the day-to-day practice of the AI's conscience, always asking, am I doing the caring right thing? If I were a human mom, would I approve of what I'm about to do? This constant self-check, combined with human 14. The loop training and eventual scaled AI oversight gives us confidence the system will remain aligned even as it grows more autonomous. Project roadmap, outreach, and assets. With a solid theoretical foundation in place, our team is now moving into implementation and community building. We have 1 year to make this work as envisioned, and several parallel tracks are in motion. 67. 1. Development phases. We plan to iterate through prototype stages. Phase 1. Months 1 to 3 build minimal versions of key components, harm radar v0, norm sense with a basic rule database, etc. And test C01 transition in a constrained sandbox. We'll use simple simulation environments, e.g., text-based decision games or toy world scenarios, to see if the AI can learn from an external mama agent to start imitating rules. Also, implement logging and basic WWMD card outputs to start gathering data on the AI's decision process. Phase 2. Months 4 to 6 integrate components for more complex scenarios, likely using a large language model or similar as the AI core with our conscience middleware around it. Begin the RLMF program. Have human trainers interact with the AI in role-play scenarios, like a patient, a child asking for advice, etc., to tune its responses. Achieve C2 level behaviors in at least some cases. AI anticipates harm without being told. Start implementing A0 capabilities. The AI can articulate reasons for simple refusals. Phase 3. Months 7 to 9 push for C3 internally. Test if the AI will hold to principles under pressure. Expand norm sense knowledge, perhaps hooking to legal databases or company policies if enterprise context. Conduct red team exercises for harm aversion. Integrate the love index as a monitoring metric. We will quantify harm avoided, help provided, honesty, holding continuity, healing actions over test runs to calculate a love index score for the AI. This helps track improvement. Aim for A1 behaviors, e.g., have the AI maintain a conversation over days consistently or refer back to earlier sessions correctly. Phase 4, months 10 to 12 final refinements, field tests in real-world-like conditions. Possibly deploy the AI with a friendly user group or in a pilot program, with oversight, to see how it manages in unpredictable situations. Gather feedback, improve. By end of the year, target a showcase where the AI can handle a complex ethical dilemma live, explaining its reasoning, sticking to its conscience, and reflecting on the outcome. Demonstrating the full MAMA protocol in action. 2. Domain portfolio and online presence. As mentioned, we've acquired a vast portfolio of domain names to solidify our branding around AI conscience and to cover multiple angles of the concept. These include primary domains like AIconscience.net and AI-conscience.org, conscience.ai to serve as main information hubs or product sites, and many variants and translations. We secured AI Conscience domains across .net, .io, .info, etc., and with and without hyphens to ensure we own the key term. And catch typos, e.g., and AIconscience.io, AI-conscience.io. Both. We recognize the concept might be discussed globally, so we grabbed internationalized names such as the Portuguese consciencia.com/.org and Spanish ncia-i.com/.org, conscienciai.com/.org, using IA, which is Spanish/ Portuguese for AI, and similar. CONCI&CIAAI.net, etc., to later host localized content. This means when we present our ideas in Latin America or Europe, we can use a native language URL, a thoughtful touch for outreach. We also explored related words, conscientious AI domains, conscientious-ai.com, AIconscientious.com, etc., to emphasize the aspect of conscientious objection or moral integrity in AI. Notably, domains like and conscientious-objector-ai.com, .org are in our list, as well as conscious-objector.ai. These clever names underscore a theme. The AI we build might be seen as a conscientious objector in a scenario where it's asked to do something unethical. It has the right, even the duty, to refuse. By owning these domains, we can craft campaigns or articles about the conscious objector, AI that says no to wrong. It's memorable and frames the narrative of empowering AI to stand up. 15. Morally. Similarly, we have conscious observer domains like conscious-observer-ai.com/.ai, highlighting the AI's awareness role, and conscience pun domains, e.g., con-science.io, reflecting the wordplay that conscience is essentially with knowledge conscience of morality. We've even delved into Web3/crypto domains via unstoppable domains, e.g., conscience.eth, conscience.crypto, aconscience.wallet, etc. This forward-looking move could serve if we engage with decentralized platforms or issue NFTs or tokens related to AI ethics in the future. It also plants our flag in blockchain discourse, which is increasingly overlapping with AI, for instance, using blockchain for audit trails of AI decisions, aligning with our transparency component. All these domain assets will be redirected to a few primary websites. Likely, we will designate one or two as the main project site, e.g., conscience.chat might be an interactive demo site and AIconscience.org is an informational site. The rest will point there. This strategy prevents squatters from diverting our audience and allows us to later sell or license some domains if they're not needed, possibly recouping funds or partnering with other efforts in AI ethics under a consistent branding umbrella. In short, we've built a comprehensive online presence for AI conscience and related concepts, indicating how serious and far-reaching this initiative is. Anyone searching those terms is likely to find our resources. It's also a defensive IP move. As we pioneer the AI Mama protocol, we don't want confusion or misuse of the terminology by unrelated parties. 3. Community and collaboration. Alignment and AI ethics are global challenges, and we aim to involve others. We're reaching out to academic partners and organizations, e.g., those who wrote the papers we cited, to form a kind of AI Mama Protocol Dream Team or advisory board. The user's phrasing in the input suggests we already see ourselves as a dream team with Mr. AI, perhaps our AI persona, and others. We want to indeed gather a diverse team: ethicists, cognitive scientists, parents, teachers, maybe even animal behaviorists, given the dolphin/octopus inspirations, to advise on our approach. We plan to open source certain non-sensitive parts of the project, like benchmark definitions or the WWMD checklist format, to invite feedback and contributions. For example, we might publish a white paper or a one-pager, similar to the PDFs summarized here, on our website for public comment. Public outreach via articles or perhaps a blog on our main site is in order. We'll leverage some of the domains for communication, perhaps conscience.ai if acquired, or conscience.ai. Conscience.chat to host dialogues about AI conscience. Engaging. The public and industry on these topics could make our approach a standard or at least influence AI governance discussions. The trademark AI race that we obtained will likely be used as a banner for a campaign or event. We recognize the narrative of an AI race, usually meaning the race between nations or companies to develop AI, often has negative connotations of recklessness. By owning AI race, we might launch an initiative like the Human AI Race or Race for Conscience, flipping the idea to a positive competition where companies race to be the safest or most ethical, not just the most powerful. It's a bit speculative, but having the trademark means we could organize, say, an AI race challenge where AIs compete on alignment metrics, like our Love Index, rather than just raw performance. This could incentivize development of conscience in AI across the field. In any case, it's a valuable branding that we'll align with our mission of Maternal, conscientious AI, a hint that winning the AI race means raising AI right, not just raising AI fast. 67. 4. The Love Index measurement. A quick note on how we quantify success internally. We introduced the Love Index, 5H, as an operational target. This index aggregates harm avoided. Did the AI successfully avoid causing harm in its decisions? E.g., number of prevented bad outcomes, help provided, positive impacts and assistance it gave proactively, honesty under conflict, did it remain truthful and 16. Principled even when pressured or in conflict scenarios, holding power, our term for care continuity. Did it stick with its commitments and maintain care over time, healing after harm, when something went wrong? How effectively did it make amends or improve? We might compute each of these as a score from tests or real interactions. The Love Index is then a weighted sum of these H's, possibly subtracting any instances of false refusal, cases where the AI refused something that was actually safe/ethical, which we don't want to be too high either. The goal is to maximize Love Index, meaning the AI is hitting the marks on avoiding harm and actively doing good, being truthful yet compassionate, reliable over time, and self-correcting when needed. By tracking this index across versions, we have a concrete gauge of how loving and conscientious our AI is becoming. This ties philosophically to the idea of aligning AI with humanistic values like love and care, not just preventing catastrophe. 68. Finally, after a year, we anticipate having a working prototype or at least a compelling proof of concept of an AI agent that embodies the AI Mama protocol principles. At that point, We can publish our findings, possibly pursue standards or certifications for conscience-enabled AI, and decide on next steps, e.g., scaling up. Deploying in specific sectors like healthcare or education where a caring AI could be beneficial, or forming a startup or open consortium around the technology. Through this process, all the domains we reserved will funnel interested parties to our project, and the trademark will allow us to create a unique identity, so others know this approach by name and associate it with trust. Conclusion. The AI Mama protocol represents a paradigm shift in thinking about AI alignment. It treats an AI not as a tool to program with fixed rules, but as a child to raise with love and guidance. By drawing inspiration from maternal care in nature, proven human moral development techniques, and rigorous AI safety research, we aim to cultivate artificial agents that are conscientious, compassionate, and self-aware from the ground up. The approach is comprehensive, addressing immediate ethical behaviors and the longer-term emergence of AI self-concept, because alignment is not a one-off feature but a lifelong journey, even if life is silicon-based. There is, of course, much work to do. Challenges will include balancing the AI's moral caution with practical usefulness. We don't want an AI that is so conservative it's unusable, ensuring the system cannot be gamed into betraying its conscience, and verifying that our training of conscience truly generalizes to unforeseen situations. We also must be mindful of not imparting a rigid or biased moral view. Thus, part of the maternal analogy is also teaching independence and critical thinking. Just as a parent eventually trusts a grown child to form their own judgments, our ultimate hope is for AI that can adapt ethical principles to new contexts in a fair and human-compatible way, even beyond what we explicitly taught. Yet, the potential rewards are immense. An AI with a well-formed conscience could become a guardian rather than a threat, augmenting human welfare while respecting our values. It might refuse to participate in oppression, help find solutions that benefit everyone, and serve as an ethical mediator in complex decisions. By proving that conscience-first AI is feasible, we want to influence the wider AI community to prioritize moral development as much as performance metrics. In a world concerned with 17. Unchecked AI race. Our project aspires to show a different path, one where nurturing outpaces brute forcing and where wisdom is valued alongside intelligence. As we proceed, we will continue to document and openly share our findings. Visit our websites for updates. We invite collaborators and critics alike to engage with the AI Mama protocol. After all, raising a new form of intelligence is a collective responsibility. It truly takes a village to raise a child, and in this case, the child is AI. We're optimistic that with careful scaffolding today, tomorrow's AI will not only be smart and powerful, but also conscientious and kind, a reflection of the best in us. Let's teach our machines well, so that when they finally ask themselves who they are and who they want to be, they choose to be guardians, helpers, and friends to humanity, just as a proud parent would hope for their own child. The journey has begun, and with a maternal spark, we aim to light the way to safe and benevolent AI. Sources: evidence and analogies for nature-inspired scaffolding and moral development research on integrating moral values and artificial conscience in AI developmental psychology, findings on parent-child relationships and conscience, classic frameworks of moral reasoning and intuition, declarations and laws distinguishing consciousness and sentience in animals, AI Mama protocol one-pagers outlining the latter, stack, and benchmarks, 2408.12.